This is Johnny Dosco. Stay tuned for another Score Sheet podcast. Holy Kadelka!
Hello, and welcome to another Score Sheet podcast. Today we have as a guest Brent Hershey. He's the managing editor for BBHQ, which is Ron Chandler's fantasy site that's been going just about as long as Score Sheet now, ever since the late 80s. We've been kind of doing this together for, it's going to be 30 years here in a couple of years. How are you, Brent?
Pretty good. How are you, Jeff?
I am fine. Getting ready for a little more hot stove action. Plus, I'm a 49er fan, so the NFL is going strong. Things are good.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I saw Brent down there at BBHQ's Arizona Fall League Symposium a couple, 3 weeks ago. That was a good time, huh?
That's always a great time, yeah. We put that together and invite yourself and some other industry people there to give us all some good information, sort of recapping the year that's passed and previewing the next one, as well as getting to see some ball games. So that's always a good time.
Yeah, seeing those ball games sitting like second or third row behind home plate's pretty fun. Plus, some of the panels at that conference are really pretty interesting, like the fact or flukes panel they've been doing the last few years, where they take guys that kind of came out of nowhere the previous season and discuss whether they're going to keep it up next year or not. Is there anybody you think of offhand that maybe had a great year last year that you think is due for regression? Like Mike Trout, maybe?
Like Mike Trout would be one, yeah, for sure. There was a big debate the last day, especially about how big of a regression that's going to be. And yeah, I would think, especially given his teenageness, we would think he would fall back some, although obviously very talented.
Yeah, that's the thing. With only 1 year of, it's not like he's one of these guys who for 6 years put up one set of numbers and then had 1 year of a spike. I guess it's possible that he'll just always have a really high BAPIP, and that his defense and his stolen bases should stay high no matter what. But he could be like Fred Lynn and have his rookie year be his best year of his career. Or he could just be the next Willie Mays, I guess.
It'll be interesting to see what he does. I know I'll be interested to see what center field defense rating he gets.
Well, I don't have him on any team, so I'm going to give him a really low center field defensive rating, I think. Yeah, it's always interesting, those guys that have wild swings. Like, I remember Adam Dunn when we were down in Arizona, not this year, but the year before, and people were pretty much saying they wouldn't put him on their team if you paid him. And his batting average, of course, was still horrible, but he ended up hitting his normal huge number of home runs.
Yeah, he really, from a power perspective, came right back to where he was, or where we assumed he would be, given his age and progression on his path. So yeah, that's one. I mean, you're exactly right. A couple years ago, there were a lot of people very down on Dunn. I think we projected him to sort of come back somewhat, and he certainly met those expectations from a power perspective last year.
Yeah. Well, and in Score Sheet, he's even a little bit of a better bet, I think, because he always gets a lot of walks. And, well, that may not help as much in rotisserie or at all. In Score Sheet, it's not batting average that really matters for players. It's on-base percentage.
He's one of those guys, certainly, that is more valuable in Score Sheet, I think, than in rotisserie because of that. Because there are so few guys with that high of a walk rate. And he's consistently on base, even though his batting average is not usually very good.
Yeah. Well, speaking of projections, the BBHQ baseball forecaster you guys are hitting the shelves here pretty soon, aren't you?
As we speak now, it's still at the printer being printed, I guess. And in a couple weeks, the initial shipment will go out of people that ordered before pre-publication orders. And then you can always go to the baseballhq.com website and order it from there afterwards also. And it's certainly a lot of work for us, but it's a good way for all of us as analysts and baseball fans to kind of recap what just happened in the year past and look forward with a few projections about what we think is going to happen in 2013, which is what score sheet players certainly want to, or any fantasy player want to know or get a leg up on.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about the baseball forecaster compared to some of these projection things is that it's really useful for score sheet players along with rotisserie and other fantasy type players, because it talks about what guys are going to do in real life in all sorts of categories, such as on base and all. It doesn't just give a dollar value that incorporates some huge importance to steals or runs scored, but it really shows what they're going to do in real life, which is what translates to score sheet success the most.
That's one of our goals, is to serve not just the rotisserie community, but score sheet and other simulation leagues and other types of games, basically that use any wide number of statistics for their for their game play kind of thing.
Yeah, one of the things you guys do that I don't recall seeing anywhere else is what you call, I guess, a reliability index.
Yeah, our reliability index, we started this several years ago, is a 3-part kind of letter grade from A to E. One is given for health, how consistently healthy the player has been. One is for his playing time grade. In other words, at that snapshot time, how much playing time we feel he's going to get. Higher grade, obviously, being more playing time. And the third is being the consistency over the seasons that he's played, how consistent have his statistical outputs been. So we combine all those to a 3-letter grade, such as the highest you get obviously would be an AAA. When you see a player with a higher reliability grade in general, you can have maybe a little bit more confidence that that player will actually be able to reach those goals, other things considered, because he's shown in the past that he's reliable, basically, with this health, playing time, and consistency basis. I mean, I think that's especially helpful for score sheet players, especially from the health side, making sure you have, that your early draft picks especially are healthy and known as being reliable.
Anybody can get hurt, right?
This is just a metric we use to look at the past and say, in the past, these players have been more reliable than others. And so sometimes if you're choosing between two players, maybe you look at that reliability and grade, and if one player has a better grade, that might be the one, if everything else is equal, the one to consider.
Yeah. Well, I know Ron has preached for years that you can't really win a fantasy league in the first round or two, but you can lose it, meaning that you're really gambling on some player's upside in the first couple rounds is probably not nearly as good an idea as just plain drafting a guy that, barring unforeseen injury, you're pretty dang sure is going to put up really solid numbers, which I think that's why Albert Pujols was so valuable for so many years. It was like clockwork. You knew exactly what he was going to get year after year.
Yeah, and obviously for the longest time he has had Pujols, for one, certainly has had a high reliability grade. Now, in the past couple of years, I don't have this number in front of me, but I imagine it's gone down a little bit because he's been a little bit less consistent from his statistical output. But yes, but the idea of not making your first choices for the first few rounds be kind of reaches for guys that haven't done it yet is a drafting method that we sort of espouse and cling to for all different kinds of straight draft formats.
Yeah, no, I think that reaching for players, I mean, we all love drafting the guy that comes out of nowhere to make the all-star team. Then you can brag to your league mates or friends. You can even tell your wife, but she probably doesn't care. But yeah, you do it in the first 2 rounds. If it works, that's fine. But if you draft a guy in the second round that has a very mediocre year while everybody else is getting an all-star, you're really kind of behind the 8 ball. So the Baseball Forecaster, like you said, comes out in a couple, 3 weeks. You can pick that up in stores, or you can go to the bbhq.com site. But along with the Forecaster, of course, they have the year-round website. You guys even have a special score sheet section where you give draft tips and during the season lineup card tips, things like that.
Yeah, we do not just on our site, not just kind of player analysis from both kind of a news perspective, but also a longer-term player performance perspective. But we also have sort of a gaming section or a gaming column that includes more strategic types of information on several different types of games, and Scoresheet is one of them. Throughout the year, oftentimes, in the preseason, but also around the time often of the supplemental drafts that we run, we do sort of an overview of maybe players that are a good chance to be available in the draft that could help you. So we do cover that with articles throughout the year. And we almost always within the first week or two of the original lists coming out in January have a have kind of a list preview article that highlights some of the crossovers and get us all back up to speed on some of those things. Then also during the year, all the time in our subscriber forum section, we have a specific section just for score sheet and other sim games where users field questions and give feedback back and forth to different. Have a question about even your lineup or how to help set your pitching rotation, that sort of thing. There are a couple of us writers that frequent that and give feedback, but also a very well-educated group of users, of subscribers too, that have been longtime score sheet players that also add significant value to that part of the website.
Like I said, we've both been doing this for close to 30 years now, so there's a large number of people on BBHQ that have both played score sheet and subscribed to BBHQ for over 20 years. So, you can ask basic questions like, should I bat Mike Trout first or fourth, and get some feedback on that. Or you can ask much more detailed questions, like you said, how to set up your bullpen and what hooks you think you should give your setup man that's coming in the sixth inning and all, and get quite a bit of feedback on it.
And it's also a great place. There's oftentimes new players there for the first time that come and say, I'm a new, I've been playing Roto for so long. I'm a new score sheet owner. I'm thinking about doing this, or I'm thinking about making this pick. Is that a good idea? And it's very. We pride ourselves on the forum community being very friendly and helpful with each other, which is sometimes hard to find these days in some of the online other communities.
Yeah, you guys don't. It's not one of those where if you ask a question, you immediately get 3 flames saying you're stupid or anything. It's a very helpful and pretty respectful forum. I definitely jump on it. I like talking about things like that. I get, it's talking baseball. It's whether it's a strategy thing for a lineup card or it's just a question: is Melky Cabrera going to have a good year next year now that he's been caught once? Things like that are just plain fun to talk about.
Yeah, and there's plenty of other specific kind of forums in that section. There's one that's just all minor leaguers. If there's the questions about minor leaguers, and our minor league writers are on there to aid with that. And there's some other more general baseball talk like that in the clubhouse forum, and as well as other opportunities to interact with each other.
Well, like I've said a couple times now, there's a reason you guys have been doing this for 27, 28 years, something like that. If you weren't giving out useful information, then you wouldn't still be growing. You probably wouldn't have been bought by USA Today if they didn't value you.
That's probably right.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's been great talking to you. And yeah, folks, I'd recommend bbhq.com. And Brent, if I don't see you before, I'm sure I'll see you down in Phoenix again next fall.
You bet. We will do that.
Yeah, as always, if you've ever thought about going to the BBHQ Arizona thing, it's usually the first week in November, runs from Thursday to Sunday, and you will never get a better seat at a high-level baseball game than an AFL game where a couple years ago we're watching Bryce Harper, and it's just no problem to sit 2 rows behind the plate. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. Basically, those games are some scouts and front office people and the contingent from First Pitch Arizona, which is that. So, yes, we do certainly invite people down there. It occurs at a great time of the year, especially for some of us on the East Coast when the weather's starting to get a little nasty to go out there for a weekend, 85 degrees and sunny Phoenix and see some of these top prospects.
Yeah. Well, I came back from Phoenix, and I think it's 68 degrees outside and sunny right now, so I can't complain too much about the weather here in California, but it really is a good time. Well, Brent, good chatting with you, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Anytime, Jeff.